Welcome to Limitless Mind. Today's topic is some losses change the shape of your soul. Some losses don't ask for permission. They don't give warnings. They don't just break your heart. They break the version of you that existed before them. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know this. You didn't just lose something. You lost who you thought you were. Loss feels personal. When it happens, the first meaning the mind assigns is punishment. You ask yourself what you did wrong, what you missed, why life would take something that mattered so deeply to you. But the truth is, the most life-altering losses are rarely about punishment. They are about redirection. They arrive not to destroy your path, but to pull you off a road that no longer matches who you are becoming. Most people stay committed to lives that are too small for their potential simply because they are familiar. They stay in relationships that drain them, careers that shrink them, identities that once fit but no longer do. Comfort creates blindness. Loss removes that blindness instantly. When something is taken away, the illusion collapses, and suddenly you see what you were tolerating, settling for, or clinging to out of fear. Redirection never feels gentle. If it were soft, you would resist it. So life applies pressure. It removes the thing you were building your sense of certainty around, so you are forced to rebuild from truth instead of habit. That is why loss feels like chaos before it feels like clarity. It interrupts momentum. It forces stillness. It creates space where noise once lived. The pain of loss comes from attachment to an outcome, not from the redirection itself. You grieve what you thought your future would look like. You grieve the version of yourself that existed in that chapter. But grief is not evidence of failure. It is evidence that you cared, that you invested emotionally, that you were alive in the experience. Redirection asks a different question than punishment. Punishment says you deserve less. Redirection asks what you are meant for next. It shifts your focus from blame to awareness. When you stop asking why this happened to you and start asking what this is trying to show you, power returns to your hands. Loss removes false certainty and replaces it with deeper alignment. It challenges you to redefine success, love, purpose, and identity on your own terms instead of borrowed ones. It teaches you that stability built on something external is fragile, and strength built internally is permanent. People who grow through loss don't become harder, they become clearer. They learn boundaries, they learn discernment, they learn how to listen to intuition instead of fear. The redirection doesn't always lead to something immediately better, but it always leads to something more honest. If you look back at your life closely, you will notice a pattern. The moments you thought ruined you were often the moments that saved you from becoming someone you were never meant to be, moving you toward a life that fits not the version of you that needed comfort, but the version of you that needed truth. There are moments in life when something is lost and you can feel almost instantly that you have crossed a line you can never return from. The world looks the same, people speak the same, routines continue, yet inside you something fundamental has shifted. This is what it means when pain reshapes identity. It does not simply add sadness to your life, it reorganizes how you see yourself and how you interpret everything around you. Before deep loss, identity is often built on roles, expectations, and future plans. You know who you are because of what you do, who you are with, and what you believe is coming next. Loss collapses that structure. When a person, dream, or version of life disappears, the identity attached to it disappears as well. That is why loss feels disorienting. You are not only grieving what you lost, you are grieving who you were while you had it. Pain strips away superficial layers. It removes the luxury of pretending. After loss, you no longer move through life with the same assumptions. You stop believing that effort always guarantees outcomes or that good intentions protect you from pain. This is not cynicism, it is awareness. Pain teaches realism. It forces you to see life as it is, not as you wish it to be. As identity reshapes, priorities change. What once felt urgent loses importance. Approval, status, and shallow validation no longer hold the same power. You become more selective with your energy, more conscious of where you invest your time, and more protective of your emotional space. This shift is not weakness, it is refinement. You are learning what deserves access to you and what does not. Loss also deepens emotional intelligence. You begin to recognize pain in others without explanation. You listen differently. You speak with more intention. Silence becomes meaningful. Ahmed. This is not something to be ashamed of. It means you cared. It means you gave something real. But it also reveals whether your sense of worth, identity, or safety was tied too tightly to something outside yourself. Loss shows you where you placed power, meaning, and expectations. Sometimes you lose a person and realize you were not just attached to them, but to how they made you feel about yourself. Sometimes you lose a dream and discover that it represented validation, not fulfillment. Sometimes you lose stability and recognize how much you depended on certainty instead of resilience. These realizations can be uncomfortable, but they are clarifying. Loss does not judge your values. It simply exposes them. And once exposed, you have a choice. You can rebuild the same attachments and repeat the cycle, or you can redefine what truly deserves your devotion. This is where growth begins. When you understand what you value, you gain the power to choose consciously rather than emotionally. You begin to separate love from dependency, ambition from self-worth, connection from fear of being alone. You stop giving everything to things that cannot hold the weight of your identity. Loss also teaches you what was missing even before it happened. Sometimes the pain is not only about what you lost, but about what you never fully received. Appreciation, safety, alignment, presence. Loss brings awareness to unmet needs that were ignored or minimized. This awareness is not meant to harden you. It is meant to guide you. As values become clearer, standards rise. You become more intentional with relationships. You choose goals that align with meaning rather than ego. You protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being with greater care. Life becomes less about accumulation and more about alignment. What you lose shows you what your soul was feeding on. It reveals where you found purpose, belonging, and identity. With this knowledge, you are no longer blind. You can rebuild your life around values that strengthen you instead of attachments that drain you. Loss becomes a mirror, not to shame you, but to show you what matters most so you can live with awareness instead of assumption. Grief is often misunderstood as something that weakens you, something that makes you fragile, slow, or broken. But grief is not the absence of strength. It is the process through which strength is built in its most honest form. Hidden inside emotional pain are qualities that cannot be developed through comfort, success, or ease. When grief enters your life, it forces you to sit with emotions you may have spent years avoiding. There is no shortcut through it. You cannot outrun it, rationalize it away, or mask it with distractions forever. This confrontation is painful, but it is also refining. It teaches you how to stay present with discomfort without collapsing, and that ability alone is a form of power. Grief deepens resilience by expanding your emotional capacity. Before loss, minor problems feel overwhelming because your tolerance for pain is limited. After grief, you realize that you have survived something far heavier than you ever imagined. This awareness changes how you face future challenges. You stop panicking at uncertainty. You stop fearing discomfort, not intellectually, but viscerally, that you can endure more than you once believed. Emotional pain also sharpens self-awareness. Grief strips away distractions and exposes what is happening inside you. You begin to recognize emotional patterns, defense mechanisms, and unmet needs. You learn what triggers you, what grounds you, and what truly supports your healing. This knowledge creates emotional intelligence, the ability to understand your inner world instead of being controlled by it. One of the quiet strengths grief builds is empathy. When you have experienced real loss, you no longer minimize pain, yours or anyone else's. You listen differently. You show up differently. You understand that some wounds cannot be fixed with advice or optimism. This depth allows you to connect with others in a way that is genuine and grounded, not performative. Grief also teaches patience with yourself. Healing does not follow a straight line, and emotional pain refuses to operate on a schedule. Through this process, you learn to release unrealistic expectations and allow yourself to be human. This self-compassion becomes a foundation for long-term strength because it replaces self-judgment with understanding. Another hidden strength within grief is clarity. When loss occurs, trivial concerns lose importance. You become more intentional about how you spend your time, who you allow close to you, and what deserves your emotional investment. This clarity is not born from logic, but from lived experience. Grief does not make you weaker. It makes you more real. It connects you to depth, meaning, and inner stability that cannot be shaken easily. Emotional pain, when faced instead of avoided, transforms into wisdom, resilience, and quiet strength that stays with you long after the pain has softened. After a significant loss, one truth becomes unavoidable. You are no longer the same person you were before it happened. Trying to return to that old version of yourself is one of the most exhausting forms of suffering. The power begins when you stop resisting the change and recognize that becoming someone new is not a betrayal of who you were, but an expansion of who you are. Loss alters perception. It changes how you trust, how you love, how you define success, and how you relate to uncertainty. These shifts can feel unsettling because familiarity disappears. But familiarity is not the same as truth. The person you were before the loss was shaped by assumptions, expectations, and limited awareness. The person emerging now is shaped by experience. When you accept that you are different, you stop measuring yourself against past standards that no longer fit. You stop expecting the same emotional responses, the same ambitions, the same tolerance for situations that once felt acceptable. This acceptance is not resignation, it is alignment. You are honoring the wisdom earned through pain instead of ignoring it. Becoming someone new does not mean you lose softness or hope. It means you gain discernment. You understand where to invest your energy and where to withdraw it. You recognize when something feels wrong, even if it looks right on the surface. You no longer chase things that require you to abandon yourself to obtain them. Loss also strengthens your internal compass. Before, you may have relied on external validation, reassurance, or certainty to feel safe. After loss, you learn to source stability from within. You trust your ability to adapt. You trust your capacity to rebuild. This internal trust is power because it cannot be taken from you. There is courage in letting go of who you used to be. Many people cling to old identities because they fear that change means something was wasted. But nothing was wasted. Every chapter served its purpose. The growth you experienced before the loss prepared you to survive it, and the loss prepared you to live with greater intention afterward. Stepping into who you are becoming requires honesty. It requires acknowledging that some doors are closed permanently and that forcing them open only delays healing. It requires choosing forward movement even when the path is unfamiliar. This choice is not made once, it is made daily, in small decisions about boundaries, self-respect, and direction. The person shaped by loss carries depth, awareness, and resilience that cannot be taught. This version of you understands impermanence and still chooses to live fully. That understanding creates presence, gratitude, and grounded confidence. You are not meant to go back to who you were. You are meant to move forward as someone stronger, clearer, and more aligned with what truly matters. That transformation is not a loss of self. It is the discovery of it. Some losses do not simply take something away from you. They awaken you. They strip life down to what is real and force you to meet yourself without distractions, illusions, or borrowed identities. What you have walked through was not meant to end you. It was meant to shape you into someone deeper, wiser, and more aligned with truth. The pain you carry is not proof of weakness. It is evidence of growth. It shows that you dared to love, to dream, to invest emotionally, and to live fully. And now, standing on the other side of that loss, you have a choice. You can shrink back into fear, or you can rise with awareness. You can try to recreate the past, or you can consciously build a future that honors who you have become. This is your call to action. Stop waiting to feel like your old self again. That chapter is complete. Choose instead to act from the strength this experience has given you. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Invest your energy where there is alignment, not attachment. Make decisions from clarity instead of comfort. Use what you have learned. Let the loss refine you, not define you. Step forward with intention, courage, and self-respect. Life is not asking you to forget what happened. It is asking you to rise because of it.